Welcome back to Wild, Wise and Curious, Embracing Our Journey, where we're excited to continue the conversation around all things peri and beyond. We'll continue to explore all our stories, challenges and importantly the wisdom we learn along the way. As usual, we'd love to chat with women just like you who might like to share your own perimenopause or post-menopause stories with us. We can't wait to chat with you. Hi, today on Wild, Wise and Curious we've got Nicola joining us. Welcome to Wild, Wise and Curious, Nicola.
Thank you for inviting me along.
No, thank you for coming. So, as we start all the shows, the first question we ask, and actually the only question that we ask, apart from things that we ask along the way, is how did you come to realise that you were in perimenopause?
So, it's a really good question. I probably had concerns I was in perimenopause for quite a while, but there was quite a lot going on in my life at the time. So the things that you kind of think, I was aching a lot. My joints really ached. I'd had hot sweats, but I didn't have night sweats, so that kind of confused me a little bit, because I was like, I'm sweating in the day but I don't get night sweats, so maybe it isn't that. I was very irritable. You can ask my husband. He thought I was probably falling out of love with him. I wasn't. I was just really irritable at the time. And I think there were a number of things that were going on. And this went on for probably 14 or 15 months before I went to the GP and sort of said, look, I've got all of this going on. I'd gone into a new job, which was quite demanding. And I thought maybe it is just settled down. Now, I've always had genetically high blood pressure. So when I was I've had this symptom, and he sat there and he said, yeah, sounds like you could be perimenopausal, maybe. I was at probably 47 at the time. He said, but you've got high blood pressure, so we won't be giving you HRT.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, So I was kind of like, fine. Thought, well, okay, off you trot, don't you? And then I guess I carried on a little bit. Changed it to another kind of role, and again was probably really, really demanding. The symptoms were not going away. However, during that year, and I think that's probably the thing, in hindsight, you kind of think, I was really struggling, but I didn't ask for help, didn't go back to the doctor, was at work, was struggling, wasn't sleeping, ached. I had put on lots and lots of weight, and I just couldn't seem to get that over anything. But I was just, I guess, I felt I was in perimenopause. Wasn't a good situation to be in. But I was in a demanding job. There was lots going on in my life. I had 2 friends pass away. The guy at work died. There was just so much going on. So I was just like, whew. So I kind of thought, is it life or is it perimenopause? Menopause. So that gives you an indication to where was I? Did I let it go on for a long time? I let it go on for far too long.
We power through though, don't we? We power through. Oh, we can deal with it. Let's crack on. And because it's you think there's so much going on situationally, you can kind of attribute a lot of it to that.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. But then the mix of the two.
Was awful. I was just, I don't know, I just didn't feel like me. And I described it, I mean, I would say I've had poor mental health when I was younger. And I'd got to a situation where I described it to the doctor once as it's like a treadmill that I can't get off. And at that point, he said, right, you need to take a break, you need to put in steps, you need to do all of this kind of stuff. And I did that, and for 30 odd years past that, I've done really well. But at that point again, I could describe it as I'm on this treadmill and it won't stop and I need to get off. And I did something which now when I read about things, and I would encourage all of your listeners to not do what I did. At that point, I was probably that overwhelmed, and I worked for an organisation at the time who was very supportive in terms of they did lots and lots. But I worked for a lady who was going through menopause herself, powerhouse, battled everything, did really good. And she was just like this person that just powered through. And I just thought, I don't even think I could talk to you about this. And yet the organiser, I think that was in my head. I'm sure I could have done, but in my head, I couldn't. And I thought, and I just, everything had just got to me to the point where I just went, oh. Then my mum and dad were not very well. And I just said, Jay, I just can't carry on. So I did the one thing I probably shouldn't have done and said, I'm just going to quit my job. I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating properly, I'm knackered all the time. I felt like I could cry all the time. And I just didn't feel like me. And I have a very supportive husband who just went, go on then, put the brakes on. That's what you need to do. Put the brakes on for a bit.
Wow.
So I did.
Yeah.
But I would suggest, because what I did at that point was I took a break. I went back and found a supportive doctor who then said, yeah, you have had a lot going on in your life, but have you never considered HRT? And I wanted to like go,
wow.
Pardon?
Someone told me.
Somebody told me I couldn't have that. So I did put the brakes on, and I stopped. I took a holiday. I really wasn't doing very well. I'm sure if I'd have said at the time, I've got all of this going on, could I? Do I? Is there any support put in place? Sure, there possibly could have been.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing,
Hindsight's a great thing. And as I say, I've got an interest in mental health, and I'm a trained mental health first aider. And I think it's been interesting to read recently that actually for the age group between 45 and 55, this is when most women are struggling with their mental health, and the increase of suicide goes up. And it's because women cannot cope with all of the demands. I think there is a potential link for can't cope with the demands of work, family, life, adult parents, all the things that are going on. But I think there's an underlying menopause that ripples through it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, some women do not understand that the mental health side of things is related to menopause. It was certainly my experience. I had awful mental health, and I've not really I'd had anxiety a couple of times, but for reasons, and it was uncontrollable, and I wanted to quit my job and all sorts of things, so I totally can relate. But I just find it really frustrating because at the time I was about 44, 45, and I didn't put it down to menopause, perimenopause, because there was just not the information out there. I wasn't seeing it. I just thought menopause was like that day, when your period stopped and you might get a few hot flushes or get a bit angry, but that was it. So it hit me like a sledgehammer, and really I just didn't see it coming.
Yeah, that's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is horrible. And so, like, with your first doctor saying that he wouldn't put you on HRT, and then the second doctor, do you think you'd have looked further into that HRT, or would you have then just taken that doctor's word and then never perhaps looked into it?
Well, I think what sort of happened, obviously, I had taken that doctor's word, literally, and when friends of mine were going on HRT and they were feeling the benefits of HRT, and I was, my friend up in Manchester, she was she went to see the Louise Newsome Clinic early on. She was getting a lot of support. She had a horrendous journey, so she was telling me all of the things that were, out there in the research, the science, and she was like, maybe you should think about challenging this. And I guess that the time, I just possibly didn't have the time or thought I battle through.
Yeah.
I had a mum who would battle through.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And she never had anything for her menopause. She kind of went through everything. My mother wouldn't take a paracetamol, God love her, unless she absolutely had to. So I probably would have taken him at face value. But when I gave up my work and I went to see this new doctor, I went with my joints are really, really aching, because I kind of said, right, I want to get back into my exercise, but my knees and everything. So she'd said to me, well, we'll send you for a scan, but have you considered HRT? And I just looked at her and I was like, well, I have, but I've been told I can't have it. She was like, well, she's let me do your blood pressure review. So I used to go so I think I went to see her in the October and my review was due in the November. She says, let's do your review. Let's do all your tests. Let's see if there's any reason why we can't put you on at this point. So I got really excited at that point, going, oh, hello. There may be
an answer.
there may be a light at the end of the tunnel. So I went back to see her. We did all the tests, and she was like, I'm happy to put you on with, monitoring. Let's be sensible about this. Let's put you on. I'll give you a prescription for 3 months. I'll see you again. But she was really, really good. She was she was incredible. She was like, I'm really open. She said, there's lots more research, there's lots more science. And she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, at that point, I started to do a little bit of part-time work, and I was also caring for my mum and dad, who were both ill. And I was like, right, I said, well, I need to do something for me. And I know the thing that works for me, if I could get back to it, would be exercise. Because back when I had the mental health issues when I was younger, that was the thing that sorted me out. And I'd established great routines for years and years. And then what happens? You get a family, you get work, you forget all about you, don't you?
You come
bottom of the pile.
You come bottom of the pile
Yeah.
again. So I was like, I really want to get back to exercise. So she was like, well, let's do your scans and see. And anyway, so we went back on the HRT. And that's what then got me back into the gym. So I went back to the gym, incredibly unfit.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would be probably 3 stone heavier than I am now. Extremely unfit. Every single joint ached in my body. I had no muscle strength at all.
So at what point did you decide to start going back to the gym then, Nick? Because you went on to the HRT, your joints were aching already at that point.
Yep.
And then you would have had to wait a while for maybe the HRT maybe helped a little bit, or?
So I'd say probably I didn't have, I've got a friend who swears that HRT within a month worked for her.
Yeah.
It was a good sort of 4 months for me.
Yeah, it was a long time for me.
Yeah, I think there was a steady sort of, by the time I went back to see the doctor at 3 months, I said to her, I could tell, I said, I'm improving. And it was the joint pain, actually, that was the biggest noticeable difference. I was aching loads less, and yet I was going to the gym, and I had some muscle ache from that. But actually the knee pain that I had, that was subsiding, and there was nothing wrong with the scan that would show anything like that. That they were a little bit like, well, you've got a slight bit of arthritis in your knee, but you should be able to manage that. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I'd say at 3 months I was improved, but I wasn't fully there. By 6 months I felt loads better.
Okay.
Wow.
So the HRT, the exercise, etc., had really, really started to improve things.
So at the point at which you started back, you said you were really unfit compared to how you felt previously, how you knew yourself. So were you going like really regularly, like weekly, a couple of days a week, or?
So I went back to the gym then sort of 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So I'd gone on to the HRT, caring for my mum and dad, but I would make a point of going for exercise regularly. But what was really interesting was I would get to the gym and I'd go, okay. So bear in mind at that point then, I'm caring for two older people who are not very well. And my biggest worry was, if I get an injury, I can't look after them.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, so I want to do that. I really would like, because I'd read that as well as doing exercise, building your strength, doing resistance training, and I'd look at all these weights and I'd go, yep, I haven't got a clue where to start.
Yeah.
And I just thought, right. So I'd go and I'd talk to and I'd say, I'm in perimenopause, menopause. I really want to start. And some of the young people, they were great, but they hadn't got a clue what I was talking about. And then there'd be a bloke that would go, what? Uh-oh. What? What you say? The M word. I'm sure they didn't really feel like that, but it felt like that to me. And that's the culture of a lot of gyms. They do have, they're incredibly professional. I went to a fantastic gym. However, when it came to talking about perimenopause, menopause, and I went home and I said to Jay, I said, you know what? I said, there's a real gap. I said, because we're all getting older. I said, Davina's on the TV. I said, they're doing an incredible job, as is Louise News, talking about menopause, how actually developing, your muscles and developing strength and doing some resistance training as well as flexibility and yoga is great for you. I said, but actually, there's very few relatable people that you can find within the gym to go and talk to.
No, absolutely.
And he was like, nah, you're probably right. So I thought, plant that seed. So fast forward a little while, my mum became terminally ill, so we weren't sure how long she would have to live, and we were actually told she would probably only have 3 months to live in September 23. Okay. Mum actually only passed away in January of this year, so she was thankfully with us for a lot longer than we anticipated. But I was exercising regularly and caring for Mum, and that became my outlet. That was my way of letting off steam. It was my time. I could do, and I could manage really well, providing I had some exercise to go and do. Okay. That was my thing. Yeah. And then it came to sort of January, February, and Mum had gone past Christmas. She was doing incredibly well. And I said to Jay, I said, I'd like to do more of this. I said, I definitely think there's a need. I said, I want to become a personal trainer and specialise in helping people who are older or have, additional needs or want to help with their mobility. So I thought, sounds like a good idea. I kind of said, right, I'm going to get on. I'm going to start learning how to be a professional PT. The exams was harder than I thought, Lou, I have to say. It was kind of like, okay, you have to go back.
Do like a lot of anatomy and physiology and all that kind of stuff.
So you have to do all your anatomy, your physiology, your nutrition, all of the links. But obviously you learn lots more about the science behind. Equally, you learn more about the science behind menopause and ageing population and all the different stuff. So it was I kind of said to Joe, Joe's like, are you sure you want to take that on, given that your mum's not? And I was like, I'd love something positive to come out of the time that Mum hasn't been very well, which was another kind of, I've kind of always had a few goals that I wanted to achieve. I thought I want to use this time to have something positive come out of it. So I am actually qualified. So for people who say actually you get too old to change your career or change your life, no, I don't believe you do.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't subscribe to that either. Because we've both done that, I think, as well as we've gotten older. You were an inspiration to me because you went to uni When did you start?
I did my degree at 35, did my masters at 38, and started my PhD 2 years ago. Only 5 years to go.
Okay.
So yes, no, you do.
And you inspired me then to go. So I did Open University, finished that last year, and then I'm going to be doing a masters this year.
Oh, amazing.
So I think we're all, we're all in good company, because I will be doing a different career. I think actually it's almost like you know yourself a little bit better at this stage in life.
You know what makes you tick. You know what brings you joy or brings you balance, and those two things go hand in hand a little bit, don't they?
Yeah. And I also think you get to a point, and again, I was fortunate enough to be able to have the ability to step away from work for a while. I knew it wouldn't be forever, but I could for a while. And I remember saying to a friend of mine, because they were like, was it brave or was it stupid to do what you did? And I was like, well, I guess you could look at it both ways. I said, but I do think as you get older, you kind of know what you don't want to do anymore.
I think you're right, yes. Yeah.
You kind of go, actually, I'm done with that.
Yes.
And that's the bit that I won't do. I've got a lot of things that I'm open to, and if you're open to kind of things, then you can go and explore.
Yeah.
I think your non-negotiables become a little bit like, you know what, I'm old enough now to know I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're younger, you want to try everything, do everything, please everyone, and
impress people.
Well, from my experience, that was me.
Yeah.
But I think I've certainly got to a stage where I'm like, I don't really want to do that anymore. I'm not going to be doing that. My time has become very precious, because I want to be doing it. Spending it with people that I want to spend it with, doing things that I want to be doing. I haven't got time to be messing around with stuff like that. So I completely, resonate with what you've said. Whether it's brave or stupid, it's a bit of a mix in between, isn't it? Sometimes, but I think possibly we get to a stage where actually, had you have had someone speak to you earlier on,
Could have been completely different.
Could have been completely different.
And I do think, and I genuinely do believe sometimes things happen for a reason. And you kind of go, you know what? Did that happen? And did he say no? And did things happen that year that made me think, actually, do you know what? You need to get off this treadmill. And the whole new world has appeared. I get the opportunity to work with some great people in the community. I help them, and this is when I first turned up. I have to say, I was the oldest person on the PT course, only by 3 years though, because that was one of that was one of my fears. When I enrolled, I went, "Am I going to be the oldest person by far?" And they were like, "We have got older people coming through, but." As I say, there was another older gentleman on the course, and actually somebody that was sort of mid-30s, and then a couple of younger people in their 20s. So there was actually signs that more mature people were coming through to potentially learn, obviously, new skills. But yeah, I do remember thinking, oh, this is going to be interesting. And if I turn up with a load of 19-year-olds, and I'm sitting there going, but yeah, it could have been completely different.
It's funny, isn't it, that whole thing. When I first started my degree, and at the time, so it's 2012, I think. So my kids were like all under 10, 3 of them. And the other students would be like, are you coming out, Michelle? Do you want to come down the club? Are you coming to Freshers Week? And I'm like, no, I just want to go home.
No, not for me. Not for me.
How did you find it, learning something completely new, going through all this whole experience? And obviously, I don't know about you, was brain fog a thing for you? And because that becomes quite difficult. So how did you find that whole learning experience?
Yeah, so I think that was a real interesting one. So going back into learning, so I think I went to university when I was about 28. Yeah. So I'd done my degree whilst I was working and fitting that in alongside. So I was aware that it was going to be quite demanding, and I was also aware that, thinking back, I struggled with that, and I thought, hang on, I'm now 24 years older than I was then. So I think what I was keen to do, I realised that I needed to establish, first of all, a routine to learning.
Yes.
Because if I didn't set the routine, it wasn't going to happen, because something else would come in, I wouldn't do it. And it was quite intense in that you had to, there was, I was on 2 evenings a week were completely dedicated. Then there was assignments, there were weekends where you had to go and you trained and you did the practice. And obviously you had to have a client to coach. So my husband kindly stepped up to be that person.
That sounds a wonderful
It
guy.
does.
And I mean, we've been together 35 years, and I think it was the one thing that he said, that was the thing that nearly did us. He said,
You were having to coach him through
I was
this.
having to coach him all, and to make sure that he turned up at the gym at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh,
and
crikey, no
he had
wonder.
to do, So he was quite. He said that was probably the thing that nearly did us, Nicola. But yeah. So coming back to your question about learning, routine was really, really important. I did struggle with the remembering all of because you have to remember all of the different anatomy. So when it comes to your exams, you've got to remember all of the different muscle groups, etc. And
So much.
And exams are horrible anyway,
and they are, aren't they?
All of my study has all been coursework, because I don't think I could do the exams. I think my brain used to fart in exams as a kid, and it was obviously a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. So I mean, power to your elbow. That's amazing. I don't think I could do exams.
The exams was the hardest one, and I've actually failed the first anatomy and physiology, not by a lot, but I had to redo that as part of the test. I think you would have had 3 attempts at it, but the first one, he said, well, you haven't failed by a lot, but you did miss the grade. The nutrition I was absolutely fine on, but I think as sometimes, again with menopause, the nutrition side of the personal training I found really easy, because I think I became that obsessed with what should I eat, protein, macros, that stuff.
Yeah. So
All of that was like a doddle.
anyway.
I was like, it's like, you're really good at this. He said, I've never had somebody that got 99%. I said, yeah, but you live that in it day in, day out, don't you? So that part of it, I think, as a woman, I had got used to all of that just through a lot of life. But the rest of it was a challenge. So I had cue cards. I had Post-it notes all over my walls. I had bits. There was a lot of coursework involved, as you can appreciate. You had to be able to write programs, do consultations, analyse people, various different things. But like you, I didn't find that too bad, because I could plan to do that. I could take my time. I could research. And I learnt loads, and I really enjoyed it, because I was learning something new.
And that you were really interested in.
Yeah,
And you
that
were,
makes a difference.
this was going to be your new career path. So you were invested.
Yeah, I guess I was invested, and I wasn't sure at the time whether or not it would end up being my career path.
Okay.
I think it was something that I'd said, I can see that there's a need. I honestly don't know whether or not there's a gym out there that would employ me, given my age, or whether or not this would totally turn out to be a self-employed position or anything like that. I said I was a little bit unsure, but I think I was determined to have something that I could focus on for me, that linked to something that I enjoyed, would use the time where Mum was poorly to have something to focus. And I said, and if it turns into something at the end, then great. I said, and I'll give it my best shot. So I was kind of like, if it does, it does.
That's
and
brilliant.
So yeah, I was kind of like really open to that. But my friends will say to me, I've never seen you happier. You are, you're enjoying it. But equally, I'm the biggest advocate of HRT. When I see people and they come to the gym, and we'll sit down and we'll have a conversation about where they are, how they're feeling, and we kind of explore, have you considered HRT do you feel? And people are like, oh, you know, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to be said, and I've come out of it the other side now, but I really do, and I will advocate, you know, exercise being really, really helpful. We lose a lot of our, you know, muscle mass as we get older. The statistics show that, you know, and our bone density gets worse if we're not building muscle and helping our bones with exercise. It doesn't stand us in good stead for the future.
No. But also alongside the nutrition side of it as well, it's really important to be getting that part right. And those two balance each other, don't they? The nutrition and the exercise.
Yeah, it is a balance, but it's a balance of everything, right?
Yes, indeed, like everything, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that everyone will come and say to me, what do you mean I can have chocolate or wine? And I'm like, I will never give up chocolate or wine. So, any of the people that you're talking about, that would say that, I'm like, no. I said,
it needs to be doable.
It needs you still need to enjoy your life, don't you? You know, for some people, they're a big part.
And it is. It's a massive part. So, you know, we are all living longer, but we're here, you know, to enjoy our lives. And part of that for some people, and it certainly is for me, is enjoying nice food and a nice glass of wine and a nice dessert and things like that.
Absolutely right.
And it's absolutely okay to do that.
Yeah.
So it is about balance. It is about moderation. You know, there's a whole new world out there with lots of injectables and stuff like that, and they absolutely are the right thing for some people. But there are a lot of people who can, through their own nutrition and their own exercise and their own focus on well-being, it can have a positive effect. Well, it certainly has for me.
Yeah. So what is your like average week then, like of like exercise? What sorts of things would you be doing?
So for me, now or then?
Now, what do you... Well, or we could compare the two. What were you doing and what are you doing now?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
So I guess when I was doing and really into... So I was probably going 3 or 4 times a week, and I would train for probably, at that point, longer than I would recommend now.
Okay.
So I would probably be going for a good hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
And again, if you kind of think back to my story, I was using that as an outlet.
Yes.
Yeah, I was, okay, this is my time. I'll go to the gym. Nobody's going to disturb me. And then I can feel human again and then go home. So at that point, I was spending a lot of time at the gym. Then I got into my course. So it was important that I was doing the regular exercise as well as training to coach others. But I also recognised at that point, you don't actually have to be training that much or that many days, that many frequencies. So I would probably say at that point I realised that an hour 4 or 5 times a week for me was about the right level of exercise. Because I was still learning how to apply techniques. I was still wanting to do my own exercise. And I would say that that's probably where I am now. So I train other people, which means that I do an element of exercise, but that isn't my exercise. So you have to train others and then you have to allow your own time because that is very, very different. So again, I would probably do 3 or 4 hours of exercise. I run exercise classes at the gym. So we have a range of different classes. So I do classes for groups of ladies. I have a gentle mobility class, which I've just come out of today. So we help older people and those with limited mobility to enjoy exercise. So way back when, I was probably doing more exercise than I am now, but I do make sure that I am doing exercise myself 4 or 5 times a week for about an hour. And that's a variety of cardio, strength, flexibility, you know, walking. There's a whole range of different things that you can do to get that balance of exercise. And certainly for me, I enjoy a number of different things. For some people, they might only enjoy one or two, but it's finding what they like and getting them to do more of it. But I can't stress the importance of doing the resistance and strength training.
No. Put the work in now,
we
right?
do hear quite a lot of that, don't we?
Yeah,
but and I also think that a part of this is like future-proofing us for our older selves. You know, I keep thinking about, you know, I'm coming up for being 50. What is 60-year-old me going to be really grateful for that I start today? You know, so I'm trying to just keep hammering that into what I need to be doing.
Yeah, because you don't think about those sorts of things, like even in your 30s. I mean, I think it's only probably been the last few years where I've started to think more like that, you know, future-proofing, getting on your bike, or doing all those things. I mean, I've always enjoyed, like, I used to run, and I used to go to the gym and swim and all those sorts of things. I fell off the wagon again the last couple of months, but I'm aware I need to be doing it because I want to make sure that I can still use everything in 20, 30 years' time.
Well, the stats, if you don't mind me quoting you, some
No,
science
go for
stats, is that so from the ages of 30 to 50, each year each decade we lose between 3 and 8% of our muscle mass.
That's a lot, isn't it?
And then at 50, it's between 5 and 10%.
You've got a couple of weeks, mate.
I'm
only 2 weeks younger.
So your muscle is just disappearing.
But I can feel that in my body. I feel like everything is. I feel like I'm not as stable almost. You know, like my skin isn't. It has
sagging more. Do you mean?
Yeah.
Almost like the stuff inside your skin is a bit flat.
That's your
fluffier.
visceral fat.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your visceral fat, and then
which
you've got
is
your
the
fat on top.
important factor.
So your visceral fat is the one that surrounds all your organs. Then you've got your fat over the top, which are the bits that get wobbly and stuff like that. So those are the things that you kind of want to work on. And as we get older, we lose estrogen, and that's where we gain more fat. So there's an interesting study actually this year, and Exeter University. Now this was interesting because they measured ladies actually who were not on HRT. Okay. And they basically put a group of 70 ladies on exercise for, I think it was 12 weeks. And they just did 30 to 35 minutes exercise, and they measured the improvements. So some of these ladies were premenopause, some were perimenopause, some were menopause. So what they were trying to do was understand what is the impact for these women who are not on any form of HRT. Okay. There's obviously the benefits of HRT separately, but they just wanted a controlled band, and this was a first of the kind study. And they showed after 12 weeks that there was a 19% increase in hip function and lower body strength, 21% increase in full body flexibility, and a 10% increase in dynamic balance, mobility and stability.
Just in 12 weeks?
Just in 12 weeks.
Wow.
So this was taking a group of women. Now they do know that HRT can have another positive effect, so they are looking to do a different study on people with HRT. But the strength training is important because obviously if you build more muscle mass, you work to your weights, you build more muscle mass, that's what increases your metabolism. So then your metabolism will burn your calories, which keeps the weight off, and then you can continue that cycle. I promise women will not get to be like bodybuilders. That just does not happen.
You hear that a lot, don't you? People are scared of getting
really,
massive muscles.
really scared about it. They're really like, I don't want to bulk up. Trust me, you won't.
No.
You won't. But you do want to stress your muscles with the increased weight, and that's the muscle comes back. You'll also get the benefit from the higher metabolism, so you can eat a little bit more.
Your chocolate and your vino.
You can.
But then that helps with the bone density as well, doesn't
So your
it?
bone density comes from your lack of estrogen, but it does. So your bone density, obviously, you kind of want to impact your muscles a little bit. So things like your jumping jacks, running if you can, a little bit of jogging, dance classes, pickleball, anything where it's causing a little bit of impact, but it doesn't go overboard,
Yeah.
that will help your bone density, because it kind of needs that, and then that's what will help you resist fractures and stuff when you get older.
You know, when you get older, that's can cause lots of problems.
Can be a lot of problems, can't it?
Yeah.
Your osteoporosis and brittle bones.
Brittle bones.
And I think I read some statistics, and I will have to double check this, but it was, you know, for some people with brittle bones, having a fall in your 70s and 80s, I mean, that can actually signify a major risk to sort of passing on a lot sooner than you would have done. And that absolutely shocked me, because I guess I still was thinking, well, you know, you break your bones, they repair, but of course if they're all brittle anyway, or you're struggling with your bone density, then that isn't necessarily going to fix itself.
It doesn't. So the things where you can, like, you know, any form of exercise is good. So even if you're just able to go walking regularly or walking uphill, anything which you can...
Uphill, Lou, did you hear that?
I hate going uphill.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that because I have actually started running. Only a little bit.
Very good.
Started this week when I take the dog for a walk. I've done 2 runs this week.
Yeah.
Only a little bit of jogging whilst I'm taking her for a walk. And I was thinking, I'm so glad this is all flat, because I really hate it. I'm like, I was thinking about it when we went to Wales recently, and it wasn't very good up the hills. So, but what that has shown me is I need to work on that, because that's not.
So we need to go to Wales more and walk up more hills.
I just need to go perhaps Braggett Park.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. How does nature?
Like you were saying though, Nick, it's because the add-on benefit to that is the feel-good factor.
You get a good feel-good factor as well. You get your endorphin rush.
So it's good for your mental health, it's good for your physical, for your bones, for your muscles.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. So why are we not kind of doing more of it? I know a lot of people they always make time for it, but I find myself slipping off of it.
You have to make it a habit. It needs to be part of your routine, doesn't it?
Yeah. But people again almost as well think that they need to spend a lot of time at it. So I spend an hour, but actually 30 to 35 minutes of exercise 5 times a week is perfect. So they don't give you that stat for, you know what I mean, it's not made up. It is actually a good level of exercise to do. So if you could think about, so the best cardio exercise is what they ideally would be something called interval training. So you're going for a run. So as you were walking there, and then you did a bit of a run and another walk and a bit of a run, that's a great example of interval training, because what you're doing is you're pushing your heart rate up and then bringing it back down, up and down. So you'll see a lot of classes where they do circuit-based training perhaps, or high interval training, HIIT training. That's brilliant. 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, something that will spike that cardio. So you get an element of that. You can do weights, obviously, you've got that. Yoga or stretching or flexibility. You mentioned falls and stuff. I mean, one of the simplest exercises, one of the simplest tests to do, which I'll do when people come in to the gym, to establish their potential risk of falls at a later age, is to test how long they can stand on one foot.
Okay.
And how long is a good amount of time to be able to stand on one foot, Nick?
It depends on your age.
Yeah.
Okay. Ideally, you would be looking to stay on your feet or stay on a foot for longer than 30 seconds.
Okay. I reckon I could do that.
I think I could do that at this age,
At our age, we probably need to be doing it more than a minute. Okay. So I'm doing, you know, there is a chart. So obviously with the older people that come in, and some of the older people that I see can't hold that balance for more than 3 or 4 seconds, which would suggest that they're potentially at a higher risk of
falling, which then may have a break, and
then
which may be life limiting.
Yeah. So the quicker you can start putting in these
protective practices, almost.
Yeah.
Then, you know, if you can build into your life some form of cardio, some form of strength or resistance training, maybe some walking, maybe some yoga or flexibility. You know, there's a few bits that you can do which would overall improve your health, and then improve your bone density, improve your muscle mass, which then has a knock-on effect on your weight, because you can, you know, you're burning more calories. If you do high interval training, it's proven then for the 48 hours after you've done it, you've still got that calorie burn.
Okay. Oh, I'll continue doing it then.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess then that couch to 5K, that's a little bit like interval training, isn't it? So you walk, you run, you walk, you run.
Yeah.
I used to do that loads.
I'll tell you what I do as well, and I've realised I do it without even thinking now, is when I'm brushing my teeth, I stand on one leg.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
And that comes from my yoga instructor saying, people always ask him how to improve your balance, and he's like, to improve your balance, just balance. Yeah. And it's exactly that. So I started doing it when I brush my teeth. So when I do the top ones, I stand on my left leg, and when I do the bottoms, and I do that religiously now. So when I don't do it, it feels weird. But isn't that just a simple
really simple to kind of integrate,
Yeah, just to do it into your normal day-to-day life.
And there's a lot of things that you can do. You can put the kettle on and do a wall sit. Wait for that kettle to boil and do a wall sit. And strengthen.
So what would a wall sit? What's one of those then?
A wall sit, you'd literally
lean up against,
back against the wall, get into a squat position and hold it there for as long as you can. Your leg will start to wobble at some point. Yeah. Maybe after, a minute for some people. Yeah. Maybe after 20 seconds for some people. Each individual is different. But your challenge then would be to see how far you've done it. Did the kettle boil?
Yeah.
If it went, if you only managed halfway, can you do a little bit more the next time? Yeah. Just continue to do things. Don't get me wrong, it's great if people can afford to go to a gym. Gyms have excellent facilities in that they've got, classes, they'll have people on hand to show you, they'll have all of the equipment. But there is things that people can do at home. There are things on YouTube that people can follow. Joe Wicks is a great advocate. He's a very cardio heavy guy. So you won't necessarily get all of the resistance training aspects from him. You'll certainly get some. But yeah, there are lots of people out there that can help and support as well. So you don't necessarily need to be going.
But it is just fitting it into your normal routine, and that's because it's that, isn't it? Something like it takes something like 3 months for a habit for a new routine to actually become a habit. I think it's something like that.
21 days, I think.
Is it 21?
3 weeks. 21 days.
3 weeks. 3 months. 3 weeks.
Yeah. 21 days.
Okay, well that's easier then, right?
That's easier. Like that. 21 days, yeah. There's that yoga with Adrienne, that's nice, isn't it?
I like
she
that.
Does a nice class. I've just been going to yoga in person a lot this last 12-18 months, but
I think it's a lot easier, if you go into classes to go with a friend.
Yeah.
So I've started going to yoga weekly with my friend, and some days I think I really don't want to go tonight, but I know because she's going as well. It makes a big difference. It makes me go. Yeah. Because if she, sometimes I'm like, do you need to go? Yeah, we're going. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and the same can be said about going to classes, because when you're at a class, you're alongside someone else, so you're motivated to kind of follow and do things till the end, even if you're really, really tired, and you've got somebody that's, you're following, I guess. Yeah. The hardest thing I think about doing exercise or going to the gym is getting to
there,
it.
Definitely leaving the house and going.
That is the hardest thing to do. But I can't stress enough that obviously not only the physical benefits, but for a lot of people, for me personally, the emotional and mental health benefits that you get from doing it, are absolutely fantastic.
So what would you tell 47-year-old you now, after you've come through all this, when you were like going through it, the midst of it, what would you go back and say to her?
To him? the one that said no.
To you.
Oh, to me.
47-year-old you.
47-year-old me. Oh,
What would you
what a
say?
great question. So, I think I would say you're 47 years old, Nicola. You know yourself well enough by now to know that you do not feel at your optimum, and you know there is probably an underlying reason for this, which is not the reason that they are telling you.
Mm-hmm.
You probably also know, bear in mind that I'd done it before, you probably know some of the things that you can do yourself to help you feel better. And probably I shouldn't have taken no as an answer from that GP at that time. But for some reason I did.
But maybe you, if you hadn't have taken the no, then maybe you wouldn't have looked into all the going into what you really enjoyed, the training. Maybe then you wouldn't have quit your job because the HRT had kicked in and worked for you, and you'd still be working in that really stressy job.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a bit chicken and egg, isn't it? It's like, yes, the doctor should have, like, you know, been honest and spoken to you about other. This is the trouble though sometimes, isn't it? That I think it's an hour of training that a lot of GPs get and let on menopause, in a 7-year, 8-year course, whatever. So it's only really doctors who want to learn about women's health and menopause that know the extra bits. So yeah, you know, becomes part of your story, doesn't it?
And I maybe would have said those things, but am I kind of glad that things had happened in the way they've happened?
Yeah.
Now I am.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it was also part of the transition. Because, you know, what we talk about a lot with lots of women is the fact that actually perimenopause is the start. Things are starting to like, oh, I need to be listening to this ache and pain. What's this telling me? You know, I need to start listening to my body a bit more. But then after all the symptoms of perimenopause comes this whole, like, we're planning for a life. We're changing things that don't work for us anymore. And it becomes quite a empowering piece as well. And I think integrated between perimenopause and midlife and knowing ourselves better and doing things that feel good for us, you know, then comes out this, I feel like we come out of it like a beautiful butterfly, you know, in our new lives. And I think that's really empowering.
Yeah, it is.
And I love that element of this part of my life. I really do.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of, like we've said on lots of the podcasts, you're kind of looking for the things that make you happy, that give you that little bit of joy, the things that, you know, where you're looking after yourself, like the exercise, like the food. Yes, everyone will have the chocolate and the wine, but if on the whole you're doing the things that makes your body say thank you the next day.
But yeah, I think looking back, for me, I kind of knew that if I could get back into it, I knew I'd feel better. For those people who've never done it before, it'll be a scary place to start.
Yes.
So that's why I would sort of say, you know, find a friend that you can do something with. Go to a gym where there'll be support on hand to try and help you through it, because it's a scary time. And you'll go in sometimes and go, I ain't got a clue where to start, which is what I did back then. And if you haven't, you need someone, because the worst thing in the world is to pick up an injury or go too fast too soon, hurt yourself, or find that you're aching and you think, oh, I'm never doing that again. That is also the negative, and you don't want to happen. So it is counterproductive. So absolutely getting into exercise, but doing it in a safe way, in a way that's going to be right for that individual, because we're all different. All our bodies are different. So I see some people who are incredibly flexible. I'm not an incredibly flexible person. I've got more flexible. I've developed a lot of strength. But there are some people who are completely flexible, and then some people who are very weak, you know, and you've got to So you need to tailor the exercises for each of those people completely differently, because our bodies are different. But you'll understand what you can do, and then it's about pushing the boundaries a little bit. But it's a scary place to start, and I don't want to underestimate that for somebody that's sitting there thinking, could I go to the gym, or should I start some form of exercise? Absolutely, anybody can, but doing it in a way that is right for you is really important, and finding the things that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy something, there's no point going back to do it. You need to find something else that you do enjoy.
So once you qualified then, how was that journey finding where you're working now to the gym that you're in?
So I was really, really fortunate in that the role came up at I was talking to a friend actually about 2 weeks after I qualified, and he works in the community quite a lot, and I'd said to I qualified under a group scheme which was linked to Everyone Active's personal trainers, so I kind of went through their academy to become a PT. And there were potentially roles at Everyone Active, and I was talking to a guy who I've known for years, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I've just recently qualified as a PT." He said, "Oh," he said, "What do you want to do then?" I said, "I want to help people like me who were scared about getting into exercise," and I said, "I really want to help people get back into doing some form of exercise for them." I said, "That's what this is all about." I said, "We're all living old, like we're all living a lot longer." He said, "That sounds pretty good." I said, "So if you hear of anything," I said, I might go self-employed. I said, "But I'll see what there is." And the next day he rang me and he said, "You know how you mentioned?" And I was like, "Yes."
Oh my gosh.
He said, "I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure the PT at Ayers Monsell Club for Young People is going on maternity leave." He said, "Do you want to have he said, "I can give you the manager, Louise, his number. You can have a chat." So literally, as I looked on their website, there was the role advertised for a maternity cover personal trainer. That was beginning of September, and I started in October.
Wow.
So everything happened very quickly.
The stars aligned for you there.
So they
didn't
did,
they?
So I obviously and I work there 3 days a week. I run classes. We support people with emotional mental health difficulties as well as part of the programme. Yep. So we'll get referrals. We run a programme called Bounce Back. So people who qualify for Bounce Back get free personal training each week. So that's part of the community. So they come, they have individual one-to-one sessions. Then we run, obviously, the classes we do, and I run a group session for young people between 11 and 18, because young people don't usually get the opportunity to work in a gym or to go into the gym and work out, because technically there are only certain equipments you can use and you always need to be supervised. So I run small group sessions with groups of young people to help and encourage them into the gym. So that encourages them to get involved in exercise. It's community, it's social, it helps them develop new habits. Yep. We also look at things like the nutrition side. We also think about what's happening, when exam times are on and things that are stressful, how they can use exercise to help them through those difficult times, which we've been doing with some of them recently who are undergoing exams. But there is a number of things that are beneficial from being part of a gym and a community. This is part of the community club, so there's youth club facilities, there's a mental health cafe there are counsellors on site as well. So it really is an holistic one-stop shop for the community, but that doesn't necessarily mean that only those people in Ayers Monsell can use it. we do encourage people from outside
Oh,
of
that's
Ayers
good.
Monsell
Okay.
to use it.
Yeah, that's really good.
And if you did want to be a gym member, normally most gym memberships are sort of between £30 and £40 a month. We get funding from the likes of National Lottery, a lot of funding from NHS to support people in wellbeing, exercise, counselling, all that kind of great stuff. So we're able to offer memberships at £12 per month and £14 a month if you're living out the area, which makes it affordable for people
Doable.
to come in, and that covers you for as many times you want to visit the gym, how many classes you want to do. There is normally a £10 joining fee, which is a one-off, but as I was explaining to yourself, until the end of May, if any of your listeners want to join, we will waive that joining fee if they quote your podcast.
Oh, that's really kind.
So
It's really
Thank
good.
you.
So
Thank you. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you ever so much.
So is that for for the you said that it can be outside of the Ayers Monsell area? So is that Leicestershire? Just Leicestershire? Anyone in Leicestershire?
anywhere in Leicestershire.
That's fantastic.
So we have a
That is
lot of
amazing.
people from Wigston that come. They don't often know we're there until they come and go, "Oh, didn't know you were here."
No,
And-
well, I didn't.
I
knew
didn't
about
either.
the youth centre, but I didn't know that you got a gym. In
Yeah,
there as
and a
well.
lot of people don't know that we've got the mental health cafe or
No.
counselling support now. We have a choir, that we have a community choir. So we've got all of the youth club facilities. We've got obviously stay and play facilities there for people in the day. We do schemes that are on during the holidays to help sort of parents and stuff. We've got a food pantry there as well, so if people are finding it difficult financially, we have a food pantry scheme that people can subscribe to. So there is a lot that comes under the banner of the Ayers Monsell Club, but really is a great community facility, and loads of people, once they know it's there, they like coming because they see other people. To your point, there'll be one or two people in that they know, so they like to rock up and sort of have a session and maybe have a coffee afterwards.
Well, it's the community thing, isn't it?
It is.
You know, seeing other people, spending time with other people.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing as well. You know, like many years ago, we were using our bodies a lot more because we were working the fields and all that kind of stuff, and we're using them so much less now. So there's the community element of it. You know, there's so much tied up in being together and doing exercise, isn't there?
Definitely.
And we'll put a link to
Yes. We'll put
to
that
the
in the
gym
show
as well.
notes.
Yeah,
no,
that's fantastic.
that would be great. And like I say, Louise had said she was quite happy to support anybody that was listening, because again, it is about keeping people fit and active. You know, Louise is really passionate. She was actually in Parliament a couple of days ago talking about what that we're talking about the benefits of youth club cultures and stuff, and what we can do. And she's always been, you know, really an advocate of, you know, from birth through to old age, this club will support you, you know, in everything. And we're certainly seeing that now, and helping obviously people keep fit and active as they get older is certainly part and parcel of what we're looking to do all the time.
So how are you feeling now then, Nick?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I guess for me personally, I love, you know, what is it where they say it doesn't feel like work if you love what you do?
Yeah.
So tick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely love what I do. Absolutely get to meet a great group of people. Not only do I work with a great group of people, I see a lot of different people who are loving that they're getting themselves into exercise. They're obviously achieving their goals, whether that's weight loss, reducing their body fat, muscle mass. You know, I work with a guy at the gym, and he's lost 1.5 stone in just over 4 months.
That's amazing.
He's doing incredibly well. He won't mind me saying, because he is actually on the website. We have done a documentary about him. He's visually impaired. He brings his service dog in, so I train him in the gym. So we have 2 or 3 sessions a week. He's got his goals. He enjoys coming. He loves the social aspect of the gym, as well as the physical getting fitter. There's a group of people there that you talk to, and like he says, he would have never have done half of the things that he's doing because he didn't think that was an opportunity for him,
available to him,
available. So for me, I get the opportunity to work with people who think that they'll never achieve what they want to do and didn't think that they'd be able to get themselves into a gym. And there's many people that come in that I get the opportunity to work with. The group classes are a real laugh. We have such good fun. Yes, you do work hard, you do sweat, but we have great fun. So it is a lovely thing for me to be able to do. I always said that I got back into this to be able to help people,
which is what you're doing.
And that is the big tick. The big tick. I can help people, hopefully help them to live longer, feel fitter, and it also helps me. I'm also able to run after my 2 grandchildren a lot quicker than I could.
Oh, see, that's always a bonus.
Always a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they can run quick, but I can actually, I can keep up with them now.
But the purpose element of it is really important, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is.
Find something that gives you a bit of purpose. That gives you a lot of energy.
It does, and I think now it's made me sort of braver as well to, things that I never thought that I would try. I would go, go on then.
I did that, so I can do this. Yes.
Yeah.
What's to stop me? Let's give it a go.
Yes.
Let's give it a go.
That's a good way of looking at things, isn't it? A really good way of looking at things. That's the hot air balloon moment, Lou.
It is, it's doing the stuff that you didn't think you'd be able to do, but then when you do it, you realise what a gift it is.
I think going back to when you said what would I tell, at 47 I thought menopause was a negative. Now I think it's a positive, because I think it gives you an opportunity to go through things, try things, come out of it the other side. And I think if people could see it as an opportunity to go, this isn't a negative thing, I can work with it, I can try different things, I can see what works for me, and I will come out of this in a much more, to your point, butterfly moment. I might feel it's difficult along the way, and there might be things that feel uncomfortable or don't feel right, but I'm going to go with it, and I'm not going to let it beat me.
Yes.
I'm going to keep it on, and I'm pretty confident then. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's been a positive, and for those people that I see, going through it and trying different things and exploring medication, exercise, nutrition, balance, meditations, all of those kind of things. It's great because some of them will work for you.
So it's finding your tools that work for you, isn't it? Which
it's
is
finding
really,
what
really
you.
It's a great time to reevaluate, isn't it? And work out. Actually, I need something to help me support me with this now. So
don't see it as a negative. See it as an opportunity.
Yes, I love that, Nick.
No,
yes,
I think that's a really good point to wrap up the episode on. That is the end on a high note. It is a positive. It is a positive. So thank you ever so much for coming in today, Nicola. We really appreciate it, and it's been really, really good talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Finding out more about what you're doing and how we can use it going forward. So thank you ever so much.
It's okay.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Wild, Wise and Curious. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to email us at info@wildwiseandcurious.com or reach out on our socials at wild_wise_and_curious. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.